The click of the lock was a gunshot, echoing off the silent, sun-scorched cul-de-sac. It was a cold, calculated sound, a punctuation mark on a slow-motion nightmare. Alex, a man who had faced down firefights and stood his ground against a tidal wave of grief, felt his knees buckle. Was this real? Was this happening? He stared at his daughter, Lily, her small, terrified face a pale oval pressed against the car's window, the glass already fogging with her frantic breath. The woman who did this, a self-appointed dictator of their quiet neighborhood, stood before him, her arms crossed over her chest, a smirk playing on her lips. "I warned you," she said, her voice a low, venomous hiss. No unapproved vehicles in the visitor parking. The absurdity of it was breathtaking. The sheer malice of her action a punch to the gut. The temperature inside that car was climbing, a furnace of her making, and all he could hear was the frantic pounding of his own heart, a drumbeat of pure, unadulterated terror. Alex's first instinct was to shatter the glass, to claw his daughter from the sweltering prison. But a lifetime of training screamed at him to stay calm, to think. He inhaled, the air thick and heavy with the scent of freshly cut grass and impending disaster. "Karen," he began, his voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Lily has asthma. Please, I'm begging you, open the door." Karen's smirk only widened. "Your neglect is not my problem, Mr. Jackson. You should have parked in your own driveway. This is a clear violation of Article 7, subsection B, of the community bylaws." Bylaws? He could feel the blood rushing to his head, a furious wave threatening to break his composure. The truth was, this wasn't about parking. It never was, for months. Karen had been a relentless tormentor, a shadow lurking in their idyllic suburban life. She'd complained about the height of his grass, the color of his mailbox, the scent of his barbecue smoke. This was the crescendo, the grand finale of her harassment, and she was enjoying every agonizing second of it. Alex could feel the heat radiating from the car, a living, breathing thing. He could hear the faint, muffled whimpers of his daughter, and it was a sound that broke him in ways no battlefield ever could. A small cough broke the tension, a meek, almost invisible sound. It came from across the street, from behind the large oak tree. The neighbor, a quiet man named Marcus, stepped out, a small digital camera clutched in his hand. Alex hadn't even noticed him. Marcus was a man of few words, a retired accountant who tended his rose garden with obsessive care. He was the last person Alex expected to intervene. I recorded it," Marcus stammered, his eyes darting between Alex's desperate face and Karen's seething one. "Everything. Since the moment she put the lock on." The confession was a tiny spark, but it ignited a fire in Alex. This wasn't just his battle anymore. It was a shared horror. Karen's eyes narrowed, a predator spotting a new victim. "Marcus, that's illegal surveillance. You'll be hearing from my lawyer," she shrieked, her perfectly composed facade cracking. Marcus, however, held his ground, his shaking hands gripping the camera tighter. "I have a right to document criminal activity in my own neighborhood," he said, his voice finding a surprising strength. The tables were turning, and the power dynamic was shifting with the heat of the day. The arrival of the police and a CPS social worker was a blur of flashing lights and concerned faces. Alex, now holding a terrified but safe Lily, watched as the drama unfolded, a spectator to the downfall of a tyrant. The calm, professional demeanor of the officers was a stark contrast to Karen's frantic, theatrical outrage. She was in a full meltdown, gesticulating wildly, citing her bylaws, her authority, her rights. The CPS worker, a woman with kind eyes and a clipboard, listened patiently, but her gaze was fixed on the video Marcus had provided. The footage was damning. It showed everything: the deliberate act of locking the car, the sneer on Karen's face, the cruel refusal to open the door despite Alex's pleas, Karen's shrieks of "I'm a respected member of this community, and this is a witch hunt," fell on deaf ears. An officer gently but firmly placed her hands behind her back. The satisfying click of the handcuffs was a sound that brought tears to Alex's eyes, not of sadness, but of immense relief and justice. Karen's face, once a portrait of smug superiority, was now a crumpled mask of disbelief and rage, a perfect picture of a world ending. In the days and weeks that followed, the cul-de-sac felt different, lighter. The oppressive cloud of Karen's tyranny had been lifted. Neighbors who had once been silent and fearful now spoke to each other, sharing stories of her petty cruelties, a collective trauma slowly healing. The community rallied around Alex and his family, bringing meals, offering to mow his lawn, their kindness a warm balm on the wounds of the past. The incident had been a terrible ordeal, a moment that had nearly broken him, but it had also been a crucible. It had forged new friendships, uncovered hidden courage in a man like Marcus, and proven that even in the quietest corners of the world, good people would not stand by and let evil prevail. It was a story about a man's love for his daughter, a neighbor's simple act of bravery, and the powerful, humbling realization that sometimes the law of the land is more important than the bylaws of a homeowners association. Was Karen's punishment justified? Was it right for a community to turn on one of its own, even for such a horrific act? This story serves as a reminder that the line between right and wrong is often drawn in the most difficult of moments. What do you think?